Hi dear students, in the last presentation we have discussed about the CCT diagram. Now we will be moving on to the core subject, that is heat treatment. So for the heat treatment, to understand the heat treatment, we require the knowledge of TTT diagram as well as CCT diagram. That's why we have discussed both TTT as well as CCT diagram in the earlier presentations. Now coming to the heat treatment. Heat treatment is basically classified into two, that is bulk heat treatment as well as surface heat treatment. Bulk heat treatment means the entire structure, or if it is a machine part of huge size, so the entire particle of that huge machine component will be heat treated, that is bulk heat treatment. So every point within that particular body will be obtaining that benefit of that heat treatment, that is what is bulk heat treatment. Sometimes as far as size of the structure is concerned, the size of the machine will be very large. In that cases, sometimes we will be doing the heat treatment at the surface only. The remaining inner portion or core portion will be having different properties as far as surface is concerned. So sometimes, just for an example, machine tools, the tools which is used for the cutting purpose and all, the outer surface will be very hard, inner surface will be very soft. So that is accomplished by the surface heat treatment. So heat treatment is basically classified into two, bulk as well as surface. If the entire body of the structure is doing the heat treatment, we are doing for the entire structure, then it is bulk heat treatment. Otherwise, if it is heat treatment is done only on the surface of the particular product, then it is surface heat treatment. So bulk heat treatment is further classified as annealing, normalizing, hardening and tempering. All these are based on the different cooling rates. I have already told that the slowest cooling rate is by the furnace cooling. If you do the heat treatment with furnace cooling or slow cooling, then the resulting heat treatment is simply known as annealing. So for the annealing, we will be usually preferring the furnace cooling. And if you are going for the slightly higher cooling rate, that is cooling with air or air cooling, then the final product obtained will be normalizing, or the final heat treatment process is simply known as normalizing. And next one is hardening, tempering, etc. Anyway, we will be discussing all these things in detail during this course. So coming to the sub-classification of annealing process is further divided into full annealing, recrystallization annealing, stress relief annealing, spheroidization annealing. All these are based on the temperature difference. See, for full annealing, we will be usually heating above the critical temperature for the hypoeutectoid seal, and below that critical temperature for hypereutectoid seal. Like that, temperature difference will be the temperature up to which where we are heating, as well as the cooling rate also will be deciding the which heat treatment process it is. So full annealing itself is further divided into full annealing, recrystallization annealing, stress relief annealing, spheroidization annealing, based on the final cooling temperature, the final starting temperature of the heat treatment process, as well as the which cooling method we have used. Similarly, normalizing is another one. Hardening is just making the entire body much harder for the practical use. That is what is hardening. Then comes tempering. Tempering is further divided into Mark tempering and Ost tempering. Now coming to the surface heat treatment, it is two category, that is thermal and thermochemical. During the thermal surface heat treatment process, what we will be doing is we will be using either flame to heat the surface for providing the hardness and all. So that is flame hardening, we will call it as. Otherwise, induction. If the source of heating is induction, then we will call it as induction hardening. Then if you use the source as laser as a source for heating, so based on the which source of heat we are using, this classification is coming: flame, induction, laser, electron beam, etc. Here we will be using the method of thermochemical reactions, or diffusion properties we are utilizing for providing the hardness of the surface. So that is thermochemical reaction. Carburizing means carbon is infused into the surface, or carbon is diffused into the surface up to a 2 mm or 3 mm depth. The lower portion will be kept as such, so only the surface will be getting hardened by the carburization. Like that, nitrogen will be used to diffuse into the surface by the chemical reaction. By providing the required temperature and all, it is possible. So based on the diffusion methods, thermochemical surface hardening, surface heat treatment is further classified as carburizing, nitriding and cyaniding. Okay. Now this will have a somewhat overall idea about holding temperatures for different heat treatment processes. You can see in this line A3 is the upper critical temperature for hypoeutectoid reaction. See, towards this left side we will have hypoeutectoid and here we will have hypereutectoid solution. So A3 line, this line is the upper critical temperature for hypoeutectoid combination, and this line ACM, this is actually ACM. ACM is upper critical temperature for hypereutectoid, and you can see a horizontal line here, that is what is A1 line, that is lower critical temperature. So transformation of the austenite begins at this line and transformation will be complete at this line. That is the meaning. For hypoeutectoid, transformation of the austenite is beginning or will start at this point. That temperature is known as upper critical temperature, and the transformation is complete by the lower critical temperature or 727 degrees Celsius for steam. Okay, for hypereutectoid, the temperature is different from for hypoeutectoid, that is shown by the line ACM. Upper critical temperature is shown by the line ACM. What is the difference between these two? Here we will have much lower carbon concentrations. Here the eutectoid solution will have 0.8 percentage of weight as carbon. Towards this side the carbon percentage will be less. Towards this side we will have the more carbon percentage, that means cementite will be present at this in this region. Here we will have the much lesser carbon component, that is ferrite. Okay, that is the main difference. Here alpha plus ferrite will be there, here alpha plus cementite will be there. So finally after cooling, which composition we are cooling, based on that we will have the different final structure also. Okay, I think all these things you might have studied during the phase diagram and all. If it is not clear for you, then please go through that module, that part which is uploaded by Melvin sir. Okay, so this picture is giving the temperature holding temperature for different heat treatment. So from where which temperature up to which temperature we have to heat for that particular heat treatment process. You can see here comes the first one is annealing. Annealing means this thick line, this one is the annealing line for hypoeutectoid steel. This is the temperature region. So just above upper critical temperature we have to heat for the annealing to start. Here in this case for hypereutectoid, see, there is no need to heat above the upper critical temperature. Here we will be heating only just above the lower critical temperature or above the A1 line only we are heating. So for hypoeutectoid steel, the annealing temperature is just above the upper critical temperature, whereas for hypereutectoid steel, the annealing temperature is only just above the lower critical temperature only. That is the difference. So coming to the normalizing, both for hypoeutectoid as well as hypereutectoid, the heating temperature is both above the upper critical temperature. Here if it is hypoeutectoid, then we will be heating above A3 line. If it is hypereutectoid, we will be heating above ACM line. Okay, in both cases of normalizing, the starting temperature is above critical temperature line. So for carburizing process, the much higher temperature is required compared to the upper critical temperature. Forging is done at a very high temperature compared to upper critical temperature in both for hypo as well as hypereutectoid. But you can see spheroidizing annealing. For the spheroidizing annealing process, the temperature to which the specimen is to be heated is just below the lower critical temperature. You can see it is happening below the lower critical temperature, whether it is hypereutectoid or hypoeutectoid, whatever may be, the heating temperature is only up to below the lower critical temperature. And recrystallization, and for recrystallization annealing, it is much lesser than compared to spheroidizing annealing process. And for, of course, for stress relief annealing, the purpose is only to just relieve the stresses that is created by the cold working. In that case, the temperature will be much lesser compared to the all other heat treatment processes. So I think this diagram is giving you a clear idea about the different holding temperature for different heat treatment and all. If the question is being asked for 14 marks to explain different annealing, normalizing, and carburizing, everything together, then it is easy to draw this. This single diagram is enough to draw. With this diagram you can explain everything. If it is asked for lower question like annealing, you have to explain only annealing, then you have to go for the other diagrams that I will explain as a continuation. Okay, so everything is asked together, then you can draw only this diagram, and with this diagram you can explain everything. Otherwise, if it is asked separately, then you have to go for the separate diagrams. Now next one is cooling rate for different heat treatment. I have already explained this too. See, if the cooling rate is very low, that is furnace cooling, if you are opting, then the process is commonly known as annealing heat treatment. If the cooling is done in air or air cooling we are preferring, then the heat treatment process is called as normalizing. In the case of annealing, the final product that we are expecting is coarse perlite, and in the case of normalizing, the final product we will obtain is fine perlite. And if you are going for oil quenching means oil at a particular temperature is used as the cooling medium. Then if you are going for the oil quenching, then the perlite formation will start at this point, but the perlite formation will not end or finishing point. This curve is not touching the finishing curve, so that means we will expect to have a perlite structure as well as, see, from this point martensite is going to start. So both perlite plus martensite structure will be obtained as the final product for oil quenching. And if you are going for very high cooling rate, that is water quenching, in that case of hardening process, we will be directly getting the martensite. No other structure is available. Austenite is directly transformed into martensite. Okay. So based on this cooling rate, different heat treatment processes are classified. See, for annealing, the cooling rate is very low cooling rate. If it is normalizing, air cooling, it is somewhat faster compared to the furnace cooling. If it is oil quenching, then the product will be different. Both perlite plus martensite will be the final product. If it is water quenched, we will call it as water quenching. In that case, the hardest structure will be obtained. That is what is known as martensite. Okay. So which product we want as a ultimate product? Based on that, we will choose the heat treatment process. So first one is annealing. Annealing is the important heat treatment process. That itself is classified into I think around 4 categories. That is, full annealing is there. Then comes stress relief annealing. Then comes recrystallization annealing as well as periodization annealing. So 4 sub-classifications are there for the annealing process. First, coming to the full annealing, or simply it is called annealing. Sometimes instead of full annealing, we will be calling it as annealing. Annealing means full annealing. Okay. All others are specifically mentioned. This process is used to obtain complete recrystallization, relieve internal stress, and to restore the ductility and meshnability. That is the main purpose of doing this full annealing. By doing this, we will be complete recrystallization will take place. See, for annealing process, the temperature that we are holding is above this upper critical temperature. So complete recrystallization will take place in this case. So two-phase formation will be the, see, in this temperature, the specimen will be completely in its austenite structure, stable austenite structure. So that stable austenite structure on cooling, what happens is this is transformed into ferrite plus austenite. So that is the final product that we are going to get. If it is hypereutectoid, then it is cementite plus austenite will be the final. So from phase transformation is there during the cooling in the case of full annealing process. Okay. So finally, why we do full annealing is to relieve the internal stress and to restore the ductility and meshnability, and complete recrystallization is taking place in the case of full annealing. If you go to the other annealing process, there may not be complete recrystallization, will not be there. That is the main difference. Here we will have complete recrystallization. Hypereutectoid steels are heated 50 degrees Celsius above A3 line. See, if the structure is hypereutectoid, then we will be heating 50 degrees Celsius above A3 line at around 10 to 50 degrees Celsius around 10 to 50 degrees Celsius above A3 line. Then what we will do is we will be holding the specimen at this temperature for the uniform heating of the entire particles present in that particular specimen. So hypoeutectic steels are heated 50 degrees Celsius above A3 line. Holding at this temperature converts the structure into austenite. So if you hold there for a particular time, then the entire structure will be completely converted into austenite form. That is the stable form above critical temperature. So once the entire structure is converted into austenite form, then the steels are very slowly cooled, 10 to 20 degrees Celsius in the furnace. So cooling rate is 10 to 20 degrees Celsius only. So within an hour, this much temperature difference only is allowed to cool. So steels are very slowly cooled, or furnace cooling we will be opting. So that method is known as annealing. So in the annealing, what we will do is we will be heating that specimen above the critical temperature, that is A3 for hypoeutectoid steel. If it is hypoeutectoid steel, we will be heating above upper critical temperature, that is above A3 line. then we will be holding that specimen at that temperature for a long time. That means for the complete transformation of the structure into austenite. So once completely austenite is formed, then we will start the cooling in the furnace itself with a very slow cooling. Of course, the time required for cooling will be very large. It will take even hours or days to complete. Okay. So if it is hyper-eutectoid, we are not heating above the upper critical temperature. Instead, we will be just heating above the lower critical temperature. That is the only difference. Austenite transformed to ferrite and perlite in the case of hyper-eutectoid. So once the cooling starts, austenite will be transforming into ferrite and perlite. Along with this recrystallization, relief of internal stress and restoration of the ductility are also achieved. So these are the finally we are getting. So internal stress are relieved by this process and ductility is also achieved. Why ductility is achieved is means by the recrystallization. Okay. So for the hyper-eutectoid steel with perlite plus cementite structure are heated above 50 degrees Celsius above A1 line only. See, here we are not going if the if it is hyper-eutectoid steel, then we won't heat above the upper critical temperature. Instead, we will be heating just above the lower critical temperature, that is A1 line. So above 50 degrees Celsius, just 50 degrees Celsius above A1 temperature we will heat. Then they are held at that temperature to convert perlite to austenite. So in that temperature, entire structure is converted into, entire perlite is converted into austenite. So after once the completely converted into austenite stable form, then it is allowed to cool. There is no change in cementite. See, during this heating process, since it is not crossing the upper critical temperature, so cementite is not completely converted into austenite. Only the perlite present in the composition will be converted into austenite. So cementite will remain as such. That is the difference between hyper-eutectoid, if we are doing annealing for hyper-eutectoid as well as hyper-eutectoids. Okay, so there is no change to cementite, then cooled in furnace at a slow rate. Same cooling is done, in both the cases furnace cooling is done. Since slow cooling, it will take hours to finish, so it is time consuming as well as expensive also. So this is the schematic diagram representing. See, this line shows the upper critical temperature for hyper-eutectoid. So for annealing, what we will do is we will be initially heating to a temperature above the upper critical temperature for hyper-eutectoid, and we will be holding at that temperature for a particular time. Once complete austenite transformation takes place, we will be going for the slow cooling that is shown by this curve. See, if it is hyper-eutectoid, then we are the temperature of heating is just above lower critical temperature line, that is A1 line. So we are not crossing the upper critical temperature line. Heating temperature is only just above the lower critical temperature. We will be holding at that temperature for a particular time to completely transform all the perlite into austenite. Cementite will remain as such. It will not convert or nothing happens to the cementite. It will stay as such. Then finally it is allowed to cool. That is the difference between hyper-eutectoid as well as hyper-eutectoid. And this figure shows the clear picture where annealing is happening. See, this is our A3 line. This line, lower line is the A3 line. This one is our A1 line, and this line is our ACM line. So for annealing, this for hyper-eutectoid in this region, annealing will be taking place. For hyper-eutectoid in this region only, annealing will be taking place. So this is the this temperature difference is almost 50 degrees. Here also we are heating above A1 temperature, 50 degrees Celsius above A1 temperature. Here also above 50 degrees above A3 temperature. That is the only difference. Okay, I think the process is clear for you. Hyper-eutectoid steel are not heated to full austenite range above ACM line because machinability is drastically affected due to the brittle cementite film around the perlite. So that is the reason why we are not heating hyper-eutectoid steel above the upper critical temperature. Okay. So the final structure after slow cooling is the coarse lamellar perlite nerve core cementite in the grain boundary. So always the final structure will have cementite in the grain boundary. So it will be much harder compared to the other ones. Okay. This structure has more brittleness and poor mechanical properties. Once in the grain boundary cementites are there, then what happens is cracks will be easily propagating through this cementite structure. So the mechanical property will be poor as well as more brittle the material steel will become. Okay, so this is not a desirable property. That's why we are not going for annealing in case of hyper-eutectoid steel. So for hyper-eutectoid steel only we will be preferring annealing. In the case of hyper-eutectoid we won't go for annealing. If you want to impart negative property, that is, if you want to make the steel more brittle or having poor mechanical property, then only we will be going for this one, hyper-eutectoid annealing. Okay. So in a nutshell, annealing is heating temperature is about 50 degrees Celsius above A3 for hyper-eutectoid and above A1 for hyper-eutectoid. Cooling is furnace cooling, and microstructure expected is coarse microstructure, lower strength, higher ductility. So these are all in a nutshell. Okay, you can go through this slide. Now coming to the next annealing process, that is stress relief annealing. In the name itself it is there. This annealing process is mainly done to just relieve the stresses caused by the cold working. Cold working means the processes which are carried out on a metal below the below the what we can say recrystallization temperature. So in the case of steel, if it is less than 727 degrees Celsius, then we will call it as cold working. If the working temperature is more than that one, then usually we will call it as hot working. So if by heating recrystallization is not taking place, then that is what is known as cold working. Otherwise it is hot working. It is completely, we will be studying this in detail in the fourth module, so I am not explaining much about that one here. So anyway, by doing cold working ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ ഈ കൊല്ലപ്പണിക്കാരൊക്കെയില്ല ആലയിലൊക്കെ പണിക്കുന്നവരില്ല, അവർ ഇരുമ്പ് ചൂടാക്കിയിട്ട് പഴുത്ത പോലെ അതിനുശേഷം അതിൻ്റെ മുകളിൽ അടിച്ചിട്ടൊക്കെ ഓരോ സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത്, അതൊക്കെ കോൾഡ് വർക്കിംഗ് ആണ്. അവിടെ റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ നടക്കില്ല, മനസ്സിലാവും. അവിടെ തന്നെ എനിക്ക് ഈ പറഞ്ഞ സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ കാണാൻ കൊഞ്ചിങ് കാണാൻ പറ്റും. ഈ ചൂടായ സാധനം അവർ നേരെ എടുത്തിട്ട് വെള്ളത്തിൽ മുക്കുന്ന കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ? സൈഡിലൊരു കുഴി പോലെ ആക്കിയിട്ട് വെള്ളം നിറച്ചിട്ട് അതിൽ മുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതിനാണ് എന്ത് പറയുന്നത്, സിമ്പിളായിട്ട് ആ പ്രോസസ്സിനാണ് എന്ത് പറയുന്നത്, ഹാർഡനിങ് പ്രോസസ്സാണത്, മനസ്സിലല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ മാർട്ടൻസൈറ്റാണ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുക, അതാണ് വാട്ടർ കൊഞ്ചിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നേരെ കുറച്ച് ഒരു സൈഡിൽ ഇതേപോലെ നമ്മൾ ഈ വണ്ടീൻ്റെ എഞ്ചിൻ ഓയിൽ നിറച്ച് വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും, അതിൽ മുക്കുന്നതിനാണ് ഓയിൽ കൊഞ്ചിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഇതൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ കണ്ടിട്ടുള്ള സാധനങ്ങളാണ്, ബട്ട് ഇൻ ഡിഫറെൻറ്റ് നെയിംസ്, ദാറ്റ്സ് ഓൾ. ഓക്കെ, now coming to stress relief annealing, it is a subcritical temperature heat treatment. See, the heating temperature is below the lower critical temperature, that is what is known as subcritical temperature. It is a subcritical temperature heat treatment given to hypoeutectoid steel up to 0.3% carbon. That is very important. This process is only done for the steel having low carbon content or up to 0.3% carbon or hypoeutectoid steel only we are doing this stress relief annealing. Since subcritical temperature heating recovery process occurs without recrystallization. See, here there is no recrystallization happening since the heating temperature is below recrystallization temperature or below lower critical temperature. So recrystallization will not be there. So only the internal stresses developed will be relieved. Here steel is heated uniformly to below lower critical temperature and is held for sufficient time at this temperature and is uniformly cooled. So maximum temperature raised is up to 600 degrees Celsius. So heating temperature is only up to 600 degrees Celsius. See, 727 degrees Celsius is the lower critical temperature. So only around 600 degrees, maximum up to 600. Usually 550 to 600 on, that is the range of stress relief annealing. The internal residual stresses are developed either due to plastic deformation during machining and grinding or due to non-uniform cooling from an elevated temperature in case of welding, casting, etc. See, by doing all this process, see, in case of doing welding, some internal stresses are developed. By doing casting, again internal stresses are developed in the material. Sometimes by doing the machining processes, just like chipping and all, some stress will be developed. During grinding also internal stress will be developed. So we have to remove that internal stress developed, because in order to impart the properties, otherwise the failure will take place. So usually stress relief annealings are done for the final products only. Once all this machining as well as welding, casting, everything is done on a particular material, we will go for the stress relief annealing. These residual stresses are removed by this stress relief anneal. Since not heated above recrystallization temperature, cooling rate is not significant. See, we are not heating above the recrystallization temperature, so no recrystallization is taking place. So cooling rate is not having any importance. So just to cool to the room temperature, that is enough. Whether it is air cooled, whatever cooling rate we are giving, that is not going to have any significant change, because phase transformation is actually not there. If phase transformation is there, then only the cooling rate is having an importance. See, austenite is in its single phase. It is actually changing to pearlite, means it is in its binary state. See, both cementite as well as austenite will be there in the pearlite state. So it is two phase component. So from single phase it is converted into two phase. So phase transformation is actually taking place during that process. So in that case, if the slow cooling is there, then we will be getting perlite, coarse perlite, otherwise fine perlite, like that. But in this case, the stress relief annealing, that heating temperature is below critical temperature, that means there is no recrystallization is taking place. That means cooling rate is not having any importance for this particular process. Since not heated above the recrystallization temperature, cooling rate is not significant since no phase change is there, but still steel is finally cooled back to the room temperature in air. Mostly air cooling we will be preferring. Magnitude of stress relieved depends on the temperature and holding time, of course. So how much stress it is relieved depends on the holding time, how much time we are holding, and as well as the how up to what temperature we have heated. I have already told from 550 to 600 degrees Celsius we will be heating. So that heating temperature is also will decide how much stress is relieved. No microstructural changes will take place during this process. That is also very important. See, phase change is not there, or recrystallization is not taking place. So there won't be any microstructural changes. So in a nutshell, it is given here as heating temperature is below recrystallization temperature 550 degrees Celsius. Recovery is the dominant mechanism during this process. Only recovery is taking place. Mechanical properties lost by machining and or cold working is recovered. That is the only thing that we are aiming by doing this process. Cooling not specified, although slow cooling is much more preferred, not to have the induced thermal stress. If you cool in a much faster rate, then thermal stresses may develop within the material. So in order to avoid that also, always air cooling is preferred. So expected microstructure, no microstructure change is not there, so that is not important in case of stress relief annealing. Now coming to the next annealing, that is recrystallization annealing. So this is being done at a much higher temperature than this one. Stress relief annealing, recrystallization annealing is having a temperature much higher than the stress relief annealing. The stress relief annealing temperature is below 600 degrees Celsius, usually around 550 degrees Celsius, whereas recrystallization annealing process, that also is carried out below lower critical temperature. So there is no phase transformation and all. Recrystallization is not there, only just heating is doing there and allowed to cool, that's all. So that is no phase change is there, but recrystallization of course will be there since it is close to the lower critical temperature. This is also called process annealing. Sometimes it is called process annealing also. It is done at a subcritical temperature in the range of 600 to 650 degrees Celsius. Steel is heated, held for sufficient time and slowly cooled in the air. That is what is happening in this process. It is used to increase ductility of the cold worked material to facilitate further deformation. The cold worked ferrite recrystallizes during this anneal. Machinability is also improved. See, this recrystallization annealing process will be usually used for the process which is already drawing and extrusion process are doing on a particular material. See, once drawing and extrusion is done, then that plasticity will be lost. So in order to again impart that plasticity, we will be doing recrystallization annealing. It is used to increase the ductility of cold worked material to facilitate further deformation. See, once we are deforming a particular material, then that deformation property will be lost. So if you want to further deform, then we will be again doing recrystallization annealing. That means that deformation or plastic property is again regained, then we can further deform like that. The cold worked ferrite recrystallizes during this anneal. So during this annealing process, the cold worked ferrite means in the hypoeutectoid steel. So cold worked ferrite will only that ferrite is recrystallized during this process. The entire structure is not recrystallized. The ferrite structure present in the hypoeutectoid steel is actually recrystallized by doing this process. During this anneal, machinability is also improved. By this process, we are also improving the machinability. It is used for low carbon steel. See, this again is also done for low carbon steel only. We are not using this recrystallization annealing process, not used for the hypereutectoid steel or high carbon steel. The reason is in that hypereutectoid steel finally will have the cementite structure. So we won't use this structure. Only ferrite structure will be recrystallized by doing this process. Cementite will not recrystallize by doing this process. So we cannot apply this one for the hypereutectoid steel. It is used only for low carbon steels. In medium and high carbon steel, full annealing is required for recrystallization. See, if you want to have full recrystallization, if you want to have cementite recrystallization, then we have to go for the full annealing. That is the only option. This process does not produce any new structure by phase transformation but produces only new crystals of same structure. That is very important. We are not producing any new phase by this process or heating process. Only we are getting new crystals of the same structure. So crystal structure is rearranged. That's all. ഓക്കെ, നേരത്തെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന ബൗണ്ടറി ഒക്കെ എങ്ങനെയാണോ അവിടെയൊക്കെ മാറിയിട്ട് വീണ്ടും ഒന്നുകൂടെ ക്രിസ്റ്റൽസ് ഒന്നുകൂടെ റീഅറേഞ്ച്ഡ് ആവും. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് നേരത്തെ ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം നമ്മൾ ഡ്രോയിങ്ങോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എക്സ്ട്രൂഷനോ ഒക്കെ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട ആ ഒരു ഡക്റ്റിലിറ്റി എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, റീഗെയിൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. അപ്പോൾ കൂടുതൽ വീണ്ടും എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, ഒന്നുകൂടെ നമുക്കതിനെ വലിച്ചു നീട്ടാനൊക്കെ ആ ഡക്റ്റിലിറ്റി വീണ്ടും റീഗെയിൻ ചെയ്താൽ വീണ്ടും നമുക്കതിൽ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം, ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ ചെയ്യാം. അതാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്. ദ റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ അനീലിംഗ് ടെമ്പറേച്ചർ ഈസ് നോട്ട് ഫിക്സഡ് and it depends on the chemical composition, it depends on chemical composition, amount of deformation, holding time and initial grain size. So it is depending on all these things, and finally what we have to obtain, that also is dependent. Larger the degree of deformation or longer the holding time, lower will be the recrystallization temperature. See, if your degree of deformation is large and we are holding for a very long time, then of course the recrystallization temperature required will be less. Otherwise recrystallization temperature is more. Okay. The final structure will have strain-free equiaxed grains at the expense of deformed grains. So once we are performing a drawing some process, mechanical process like drawing, extrusion, etc. Drawing എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ അറിയോ, നമ്മൾ ഒരു സാധനത്തിന് ഒരു പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഹോളോടെ വലിച്ചു നീട്ടിയെടുത്തിട്ട് ഇപ്പം വലിയ ബില്ലറ്റ് എന്നൊക്കെ പറയും, വലിയ സൈസുള്ള സാധനത്തിന് ചെറിയ ഡയമീറ്ററിലൊക്കെ ചുരുക്കിയെടുക്കുന്നതിനാണ് ഡ്രോയിങ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മൾ ഒരു സൈഡിൽ നിന്ന് വലിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിന് ഡ്രോയിങ് എന്ന് പറയും, മറ്റേ സൈഡിൽ നിന്ന് നമ്മൾ ഫോഴ്സ് കൊടുത്തിട്ട് പുഷ് ചെയ്ത് ചെറിയൊരു ഹോളിലൂടെ അതിനെ കടത്തി വിടുകയാണെങ്കിൽ സ്ട്രക്ചർ ചേഞ്ചസ് വരുത്താൻ തന്നെയാണ് എക്സ്ട്രൂഷനൊക്കെ. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെയൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്ത് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയാണ്, ആ ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയാണ് നമ്മൾ യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം ഡിഫോം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ആ ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി ലോസ്റ്റ് ആയി, പിന്നെ അതിനെ റെസിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യും, പിന്നെ ഫർദർ ഡിഫോർമേഷൻ നടക്കില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഒരിക്കൽ ഡിഫോമായ സാധനത്തിന് നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, ഈ അനീലിംഗ് റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ അനീലിംഗ് ചെയ്താൽ എന്തായി, വീണ്ടും ഡക്റ്റിലിറ്റി കിട്ടും, പിന്നെയും നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, അതിനെ ഒന്നുകൂടെ വലിച്ചു നീട്ടാൻ പറ്റും. അതാണ് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്. The final structure will have strain-free equiaxed grains at the expense of the deformed grains. So the deformed grains will rearrange its structure, regain its recrystallization. It will do its recrystallization. Structure will recrystallize itself, so that lost deformation properties gained by recrystallization annealing. In this process, hardness and strength decreases and ductility increases. So here, if you want to increase the ductility, then we will be going for this process. If you want to improve the hardness, then we want to use this process. Okay, so in a nutshell it is shown there. You can go through this one, recrystallization. That will be very helpful for you. Now coming to the next one is, that is spheroidizing annealing. See, that is compared to other two annealing, it is done just around in and around that lower critical temperature. It is used for medium and high carbon steel having a microstructure containing coarse perlite, being too hard to machine or plastically deform. So see, I have already told recrystallization annealing is usually done only for the low carbon steels, but if you want to do the annealing process for the high carbon steel, then we will be doing this one, spheroidizing annealing. It is used for medium and high carbon steel having a microstructure containing coarse perlite, being too hard to machine. See, this is usually done for the material having coarse perlite structure, and coarse perlite have a property that it is very difficult to machine and it will not deform plastically. That is the importance of coarse perlite. If the structure is coarse perlite, it is much harder compared to the fine perlite, and the maximum hardest one is of course it is martensite. It is used to improve machinability and ductility of hyper eutectoid steel. See, in the other case, we are doing this one, recrystallization annealing is done for hyper eutectoid. Here spheroidizing annealing is done only for hyper eutectoid steel. Steel is heated to about 30 degrees Celsius below A1 line. Around 700 degrees Celsius we will be heating. It is held at this temperature and for a sufficient time, and then cooled very slowly in the furnace. See here the cooling process we have choose this furnace cooling only. Okay, so that is the importance. ചെറിയൊരു ഡിഫറൻസ് ആണുള്ളത്, അതൊക്കെ ഒന്ന് ഓർത്ത് വെക്കുക. ഓരോ പ്രോസസ്സും തമ്മിലുള്ളത് ഏത് ടെമ്പറേച്ചറിലാണെന്നുള്ളതും ഏതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്നുള്ളതും എന്താണ് അത് ചെയ്താൽ കിട്ടുക എന്നുള്ളതും, അതുപോലെ ഏത് കൂളിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്, ചിലതിന് കൂളിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്സ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിരിക്കില്ല, ചിലതിന് കൂളിംഗ് പ്രോസസ്സ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിരിക്കും. ഇതിനിപ്പം ഫോർ spheroidizing annealing, the cooling process we opted is furnace cooling or slow cooling. That is important. The cementite lamellae in perlite colonies tend to become spheres. See, in actually in hyper eutectoid, after slow cooling, the perlite structure will have cementite lamella. Cementite പെർലൈറ്റിൽ സിമെൻറ്റൈറ്റ് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ലെയർ ആയിട്ടാണ്, തിക്കായിട്ടുള്ള ലെയർ ആയിട്ടാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുക. അതിനാണ് സിമെൻറ്റൈറ്റ് ലാമില എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ആ ലാമിലായിട്ടുള്ള ലെയർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള സാധനത്തിന് ഈ സ്പെറോഡൈസിങ് അനീലിങ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അതിനെ സ്പെരിക്കൽ ഫോമിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരിക. സിമെൻറ്റൈറ്റിൻ്റെ സ്ട്രക്ചർ ലാമിലെന്ന് മാറ്റിയിട്ട് സ്പെരിക്കൽ ഫോമിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരും. സ്പെരിക്കൽ ഫോമിൽ വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് എന്താ, സർഫസ് ഏരിയ മിനിമം ആവും. അപ്പോൾ അതാണ് അതിൻ്റെ നമ്മൾ സ്പെറോഡൈസിങ് അനീലിങ് കൊണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എന്താ, നമുക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഹാർഡായിട്ടുള്ള, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഓൾറെഡി, ഹൈപ്പർ യൂട്ടക്ടോയിഡ് സ്റ്റീലിൽ കിട്ടുന്ന ഫൈനൽ സ്ട്രക്ചർ എന്താണ്, പെർലൈറ്റ് ആണ്, കോസ് പെർലൈറ്റ് ആണ്. കോസ് പെർലൈറ്റ് ഹാർഡാണ്, മെഷീൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഈ സ്പെറോഡൈസിങ് അനീലിങ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഈ സിമെൻറ്റൈറ്റിനെ ലാമില സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഒന്ന് മാറ്റിയിട്ട് സ്പെരിക്കൽ ഫോമിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവന്നപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ മെഷീനിങ് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഡക്റ്റിലിറ്റി നമുക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും, കൂട്ടാൻ പറ്റും. ഹാർഡ്നെസ് കുറച്ചിട്ട് ഡക്റ്റിലിറ്റി കൂട്ടാൻ പറ്റും. അതിനാണ് സ്പെറോഡൈസിങ് അനീലിങ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. The cementite lamella in perlite colonies tend to become spheres with minimum surface area during this process, and hence a structure of spheroid of cementite in ferrite matrix is obtained. Okay, this is the softest state of hyper eutectoid steel. So in order to make the perlite into softest one, we are going for spheroidizing annealing. How we will achieving this is, instead that lamellar structure of cementite is transformed into a spherical shape with minimum surface area. Optimum machinability is obtained only when alloy has 50% spheroidized and 50% lamellar carbide in microcell C. Optimum machinability will be for a alloy having 50% spheroidized cementite and the 50% lamellar carbide. For high alloy tool steel, fully spheroidized condition is preferred. So for high alloy tool steel, we will be usually doing this process, that is spheroidizing annealing. This is in a nutshell. You can go through that slide. Okay, now, so that is all about annealing, different annealing processes. So please go through it, study it well, understand the difference between all this. എപ്പോഴാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇതൊക്കെ യൂസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരുന്നത്, ചിലത് ഹൈപ്പോ യൂട്ടക്ടോയിഡ് സ്റ്റീലിന് മാത്രമാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, ചിലത് ഹൈപ്പർ യൂട്ടക്ടോയിഡിനാണ്. ടെമ്പറേച്ചർ ഓരോന്നിനും ഡിഫറൻ്റ് ആണ്. കൂളിംഗ്, ചിലതിൽ കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഉണ്ട്, കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ചിലതിൽ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഇല്ല. മിക്കവാറും റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ നടക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിലാണ് കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ്. റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് അത്ര പ്രാധാന്യമില്ല. പക്ഷേ എന്നാലും സ്പെറോഡൈസിങ് അനീലിങ്ങിൽ വരുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ നടക്കുന്നില്ലെങ്കിലും കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റ് ഫർണസ് കൂളിംഗ് ആണ്, അത് ഓർക്കുക. ഓക്കെ, ചിലയിടത്ത് ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഇല്ല. ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമാണ് കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഉള്ളത്. ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ചിന് പകരം എല്ലാം ബാക്കി ആകെ ഏതിലാണ്, ഫുൾ അനീലിങ്ങിൽ മാത്രമാണ് അപ്പർ ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ ടെമ്പറേച്ചറിൻ്റെ മുകളിൽ പോകുന്നത്. അതും ഹൈപ്പോ യൂട്ടക്ടോയിഡ് സ്റ്റീലിന് മാത്രം, ഹൈപ്പറിനില്ല. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് നടക്കുന്നത് ആ ഒരു ഫുൾ അനീലിങ്ങിൽ മാത്രമേ ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് നടക്കുന്നുള്ളൂ. ബാക്കി മൂന്നിലും ഫേസ് ചേഞ്ച് നടക്കുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ രണ്ട് സ്ഥലത്ത് എന്ത് നടക്കുന്നത്, റീക്രിസ്റ്റലൈസേഷൻ, സ്ട്രക്ചർ റീഅറേഞ്ച്മെൻറ്റ് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കേസിൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ കൂളിംഗ് റേറ്റിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവാം. അപ്പോൾ അതും കൂടി ഒന്ന് നോട്ട് ചെയ്യുക, ഓരോന്നും തമ്മിൽ ഡിഫറൻസ് പഠിച്ചു വെക്കാം. ഓക്കെ, ഇനിയും ഒരുപാട് ഹീറ്റ് ട്രീറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് പ്രോസസ്സ് പഠിക്കാണ്ട്, അത് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഒരു പ്രസൻറ്റേഷനോട് നമുക്ക് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു.